What's good, everybody? It's Jordan. I come back at you with another video. So for this video, I wanted to talk about consistency and highlight its importance. That consistency is key to success. Now, you've probably heard the saying that success leaves clues. And what this means is that it doesn't matter. We can use anyone who's an expert or who's at the top of their industry, who's successful in whatever industry they're part of, right? And they're saying that success leaves clues, as in that they leave some sort of footprint that you can learn from, that you can uncover, even if you've never had a conversation with them or know them personally. There's certain things that you can see from an outside viewer perspective that helps you understand or arrive at the conclusion for how they got into their position. And one of the reasons is through consistency, right? It's with being able to show up each and every day and do whatever it is that you have to do in order to get to the next level or progress, right? There's people in different industries who can be seen as experts or masters. And for a lot of people, you might see them as already being at that point, and you may not have ever seen them at their early stages or working their way up to that point. But the master at anything is literally just a student who decided to show up each and every day. The master right now is still a student, but he's just a student, or he or she, right? That person is just a student who decided to show up each and every day. If we use an example, say for instance, you like karate and you're learning karate, right? Usually people who learn karate are learning from a higher ranking member, ideally someone with a black belt, right? And you might start off as a white belt. Now, that individual that's a black belt karate instructor, of course, at some point, they began their journey as a white belt. Then they progressed their way to yellow belt and then green belt and whatever colors, exist for different belts. They progressed their way up until they became a black belt. So yes, they are the master. Yes, they are the expert, but they're also still the student because they've been doing this for so long and they've been showing up each and every day in order to get to that position. So that is one component. Like, consistency is a major component that is standard across the board for each and every industry, right? For people who find major success or people who are the faces of certain industry, those are the individuals who understand the power of being consistent, because they understand that over time it compounds, that over time they'll continue learning, continue growing, and they'll obtain so much wisdom that they've become virtually irreplaceable, that you're not going to find someone else as knowledgeable or as skilled as them. If we use another example, right, my favorite sport, of course, is basketball. For someone like LeBron James, who is unanimously seen as one of the greatest players of all time, right? Some people have him as the greatest of all time. Some people put him number 2 behind Michael Jordan. I feel like there's no debate as far as him being a top 2 player of all time, right? At some point, the LeBron James that we see now, the great basketball player, at some point in his life, there was a point in his life where he wasn't very good at basketball. It probably was when he was like 2 years old, right? Because I'm sure he picked up a basketball at a young age. But I'm sure his very first time picking up basketball, it was hard for him, because if you're 2 years old, a basketball is big. It's hard to shoot. You can't really dribble as a 2-year-old, right? So he's this great player that we're seeing essentially the finished product, the final result. But at some point, he started off at level 1, just like everyone else. But he got to the point where he's at now because he dedicated his time and effort to perfecting his craft to then get to that point. And he still shows up each and every day, right? He doesn't miss practice. He doesn't miss his workouts. He shows up to each and every game. He's professional about it. And that's why he's one of the greatest to ever do it, right? On his way up, progressing through his early childhood, of course, he's had thousands of sessions where he was practicing in the gym with no one watching, right? Doors closed, no one watching. He's just practicing in a gym. And all of those thousands of hours that he spent practicing in the gym is what allowed him to develop the skill so that he can play in arenas with 20,000 people watching, because all of the shots that he's taken, all the dribble moves that he does, everything that he does on the court, he's done it behind closed doors with no one watching. So he's comfortable to do it in front of other people because this is what he's done his whole life, right? The same with, it literally doesn't matter what industry you're in, right? You can be in a restaurant business. Say you make the best rack of ribs, right? Say no other restaurant comes close to the rack of ribs that you can make, that you can make the best barbecue ribs on the planet. What you don't want is that you don't want for one rack of ribs to come out delicious, exactly how you had in mind, and another rack of ribs that you made, right? Two rack of ribs that taste completely different from the first batch, right? If you make the best rack of ribs, you want each and every rack of ribs that comes out to essentially taste the same, to be identical to one another, because having that level of consistency, that means that whenever you serve it to your customers, they get to experience the product the way you intended for it to be, so that each and every person can have the same experience as far as taste, texture, and everything for your ribs, and not have it be a discrepancy, not have it be that it was a great batch for one person and a bad batch for the next, right? You want it to be as consistent, like essentially standard across the board. That's for everything, right? For to be great in anything, you want to make sure you show up, and you want to make sure you show up often, and you show up correct, right? You want to make sure you're doing what you have to do, and that if you want to be the best at something, you just have to show up each and every day and progress towards that. If you have health and fitness goals, consistency is most definitely key, right? If you decide you want to go to the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week, stick to that, commit to that, because you may not see results that first day or that first week, but after several weeks, after several months, you will certainly see results. Obviously, it depends on how much effort you put in, right? But after some time, you will see results, and the consistency is what makes it easier. The hardest part for everything is always getting started, because you need to build a habit. Once you're consistent, once you've done something for a long enough period, then it becomes habit, then it essentially becomes automatic, and then you get to the point where it feels weird not doing it, because you've done it for so long. Each and every day you've shown up doing something. When you don't do it, you feel out of place. So that's how you train yourself to be automatic. So that's the importance of consistency, doing something long enough so that you build a habit, so that it becomes part of you and your identity. So this is what I mean by success leaves clues. Successful people, usually they find the industry that they enjoy, that they're good at, something that they're passionate about, and they stick with that long enough to find success. And they show up each and every day to always learn, to always try different things until they have their breakthrough. And even then, usually when they have their breakthrough, they still want to see how much further they can take it. So you want to have it, you want to approach whatever it is that you do with the same mindset, showing up and bringing your best version to the party, so that you can do your best work, right? When you're bringing out the best version of yourself, then you're essentially operating from a place of inspiration, right? And you're putting out your best work. You're not just going through the motions just to do it. So for consistency, it's not necessarily about just only going through the motions. It's about being physically, mentally present, and also, of course, doing what you have to do, but doing it the right way and over an extended period of time. And that's how you will find success, regardless of whatever it is that you do. So whatever it is that you're doing, keep at it, keep pushing forward, and just try to do it right. It's not, you hear the saying, practice makes perfect, and that's only a half true statement, because the truth is perfect practice makes perfect. So you want to make sure you practicing doing it right, and then once you have that down pat, to continue doing that over an extended period of time. So that's how essentially people arrive at success. It's about consistency. That's one of the main components about consistency. You don't want to just do things whenever you feel like it, right? You want to make sure you show up, and if it's something you got to do, to go out and do it, so that you can maintain that habit and keep that going over time. And that's what will essentially propel you forward and propel you past the masses and will have you become a leader in whatever space that you're operating in. So just wanted that to be a brief message for you guys. Once again, this is Joel, and I'm out. See you guys for the next video.